You're listening to The Broken Meeple Show, a podcast that speaks passionately about board games for the benefit of those who play them. My name's Luke Hector, best known for the Broken Meeple YouTube channel, and I'm an everyday gamer just like you. And I'll be talking about reviews, top 10s, and just about anything that connects me to board games. As long as I have a tea or coffee in hand, that is. So grab a cup, relax, and enjoy. And remember, it's only a game. Hi everybody, this is Luke Hector talking from another podcast recorded 26th of November 23, and yeah, things are good. This is literally early in the morning. This is like 9 o'clock in the morning that I'm recording this, mainly because I'm currently doing a little bit of intermittent fasting just to make up for some of the indulgences over the last month or so leading up to Christmas, and that means I'm not eating until at least 10:30, 11 o'clock, and that means that I've got some spare time to kill that I'm not spending on breakfast. So by the time I'm done with this podcast recording, I should have, shall we say, got to grips with that one. Otherwise, generally fine. The YouTube blog, still going, still tons of reviews. Oh my god, this is going insane. 21,500 subscribers, more and more coming along. Earthborn Rangers, Redwood, Imperial Miners, Archaeologic, Path of Civilization, Couldn't Horror, Nucleum, Spellbook, you name it, I have done it. And this week, I've already finished editing Age of Innovation. That's going to come out next. I've also recorded series, this one behind me here. And I've also recorded Evacuation. So that's going to be coming. And after that, I mean, I'll be due to do a review for Aperary, or however you pronounce that weird B game, A Ticket to Ride Legacy. We're finishing that on Monday. We have the finale to do, and I have thoughts, good and bad, about it. Certainly, all I am going to say at this point is don't believe all the reviews that are giving it 9 and 10 out of 10s, because I think they are seriously forgiving a lot of problems with this game. But, you know, we'll hear my thoughts on that point later. And other than that, I mean, there's a couple of other things which I'll talk about later, but health-wise, I've been to see a GP and a consultant about my my throat issues, about why it's been consistent over the last few months, and the GP found nothing, which is no surprise. GPs only have limited scope. So I went to see the throat consultant at the same place I had my gastroscopy in 2 years ago. And it was determined after having a tube shoved up my nose and down my throat, which when you're awake is one of the weirdest sensations in the world. It gave me a lot of PTSD of cotton swabbing from COVID times. Remember jamming nothing up your nose? Yeah, not pleasant. But basically it was discovered that the acid reflux problem that I have was kind of still going. Like the omeprazole I take was not enough to deal with it, or at least not enough on its own. And probably because of what I've been eating over the last year, half a year, it's probably gotten worse. So essentially, for the next month, I'm on a dietary, aggressive diet plan to combat it head on and see if it changes things. And so, on top of taking double the dose of omeprazole and Gaviscon to make certain that I don't get too many volcano flare-ups, I'm also having to cut a lot of stuff out of my diet, or at least heavily restrict it. And this includes caffeine, alcohol, chocolate, anything spicy and fiery, tomatoes, citrus fruit. What else? What else was there? Dairy, especially high-fat dairy. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I had to basically go, oh, I can't really eat that anymore. And I mean, alcohol, I don't drink a lot of anyway, but I like to have a quality drink every now and again. I've got a 30-pound bottle of mead downstairs, so I'm going to be having occasional bits of that, just, you know, restricted. But I have currently quit caffeine. Yep, I had caffeine withdrawals this week, and I am now free of caffeine, and I'm going to do my best to stay off caffeine the entire next month, see if that makes a difference. Tomatoes is a bit hard because I do love my curries and I do love my chilies, but after the Thursday's pasta bake that I cooked for mates, it was evident that tomatoes must be playing a factor here, so I'm going to have to try and restrict myself on tomatoes, so that's going to be fun. No more curries. I mean, yes, there are curries that don't use tomato, but then they all use high-fat cream, and I don't like creamy curries. I like jalfrezis. I like tomato-based curries. But I'll just have to look in the recipe book and find some vegetarian meals or some other meals that don't use a lot of tomatoes. So stay away from Italian cuisine, I guess. And what else? Yeah, and then, yeah, quitting high-fat dairy. I still eat eggs. That's a given. But I've now switched to plant-based milk. So soy, oat, coconut, almond milk, I like them all. So that was an easy one. I just don't buy normal milk anymore. I mean, I technically could get away with skimmed, but I'd rather have the plant-based milk if I'm going to be forced to have skim milk all the time. Definitely got to... Quitting citrus fruits is a bit of a pain because I do like lemon, I do like lime, I love citrus, but... Needs must. I mean, I can still eat apples. They're good for you on this. And so are bananas. Bananas are fantastic for acid reflux. So that's all good. But I've had to stop having peppermint tea, which is kind of weird. Because you'd think that peppermint tea was great. But apparently, it's good for indigestion and bloating in your stomach, which is why we take it. It's not good for acid reflux because it relaxes the bottom of your like esophageal sphincter or whatever they call it. And that actually is bad for the acid reflux. So it's like, oh... no more peppermint tea then. So my tea of choice this morning is, of course, Nature's Doctor, ginger. Lovely. I love ginger. So as long as I can ingest that on a regular basis, I'm good. So, yeah, a few changes. But hopefully this will enable my throat to heal a bit. Like, you know, if it curbs all this stuff down here, then my throat can heal and my voice can be a bit better and I can talk for a bit longer without needing a drink, that kind of thing. So we'll just have to see. I've even got a wedge for my bed where I sleep at an angle now. So my bottom half is kind of straight, but then my top half is at an angle like this, sort of 15-30 degrees or so, in order to not let stuff go back up my throat while I'm sleeping. And so far, I'm finding it reasonably comfortable to do that. And I must admit, the last couple of days, things have felt a little bit better down there. Not like crazy. I still got the throat issue here now, but it doesn't feel quite like scorched earth at the moment. So maybe the healing process is starting now that I've curbed some of those food items. The problem is I don't know which food items were worse than others for me. So, we'll just have to do it with that. And yes, occasionally the light rings are going to be in my glasses, but if I'm going to stare at my laptop without getting a headache, I'm going to need my glasses. So that's just the thing. So, yeah, I mean, thanks to everybody who has wished me well health-wise. It's just an ongoing thing that I'm just going to have to deal with, but I'll give you updates as and when I go. Gonna need a drink already. That's better. Right, so let's get on to the show. This is a special on Gridcon, because Gridcon was, I believe, was it last weekend? Or was it the weekend before? It's 26th now, so it was last weekend. God blimey, it feels like so long ago. But Gridcon is Paul Grogan's convention. I go to every year now. It's in November, and it's held in Taunton, where I grew up, my hometown, which sadly has become a bit of a shell of its former self. Sorry, Taunton, but you are nothing like the town I remember. But, oh well, we only have to go there for the convention, so no big deal. And even then, it's on the outskirts, so you don't even touch Taunton, frankly. But the convention is great. It's at a Holiday Inn in the outskirts, so it's easy to get to, it's easy to park, it's easy to do. It's got good spacious rooms, it's got, it's got decent food, and the food and drinks are not overpriced because it's the Southwest, which means things don't cost £100 for everything. A bit different from the Handycon ones where everything costs £100, but in the Southwest, everything's quite cheap. So you can get a pint of Thatchers for like about £3.60 or something, like a typical pint cost, not £5.80 or something stupid. So yeah, I like the venue, and and the venue's got better rooms than the Delta and stuff like that. So overall, the hotel's a pretty decent place to be. But the convention itself, it's like, other conventions, so essentially, you go there, you just play games, there's a library, there's a bring and buy, there's games law there to sell games, and it is run very smoothly. I mean, Paul runs a tight ship there, he's got volunteers to help him out, including obviously his wife Vicky, and it's a solid convention. We go to it each year, and it's mostly for Patreons of the Gaming Rules channel, but which I am one. But it's still open to the public after a point, and it's just a good, friendly atmosphere. Like, it doesn't feel like you don't go into a game feeling like there's problems or I feel a bit uneasy or something. Everybody is just so friendly and welcoming there, and I know a lot of people who go to it because I know a fair few people on this Patreon, and friends of mine go there as well, so we can play games, and it's just a really good, solid convention all round, really. This year was no exception. It was just good fun. Lots of good games played. Bought a couple of things from Games Law. Didn't have much luck in the bring and buy apart from a couple of games because the the bring and buy is probably the lesser thing there because it's unmanned, it's just crammed into a small room, it's hard for people to see games. When you do a bring and buy, you really do need space and ideally someone to man it. But this is a case of just literally chuck stuff in a very tight room and hope it sells, but it gets buried under everybody else's games, and so selling stuff at the Gridcon doesn't tend to happen on a regular basis. But ah well, no matter, that's only a minor thing. So the rest of it is just all solid. Big charity raffle. I think it raised over like 6 and a bit grand or something for charity with all of those stuff. Of course, I buy tickets because I don't need the games, but I want to support charity. Although it would be nice to win the raffle one of these days. I don't think I've ever won it. It's so like hard to win it because some people buy a ridiculous amount of tickets, and I'm just very unlucky. So, you know, all in all, really solid, and of course I will be there next year without fail because this is basically a go-to convention. You know, it's, I mean, what is it, about 2.5 hours back to Taunton from me, and you know, it's a trip well spent. I can always visit the parents who are nearby if necessary, but even if I don't, it's 3 days well spent, you know, to go there. And I get there a bit earlier on Thursday to play in the evening as well, and they've got a health club on the hotel, so I can go there, and you know, I went there every day for a swim and a sauna and a 5k run and stuff, and it's just good. It's a solid convention, honestly. If you get a chance to go to it, you know, it's very difficult to get a slot because Patreons come first and then the public, and there's only so many tickets. But seriously, if you get a chance to go to this one, I do recommend it. So once I take a swig of water because my throat's already drying, there we go. Let's talk about what exactly I'm trying to get to the point here. Well, basically, I just want to talk about stuff I played because this one had a lot of memorable experiences. There was quite a fair few games I played. I mean, I only played one new game there, and we're going to talk about it, and it's going to shock you a lot. But most of the games there I played and was teaching or otherwise. And there was just some memorable things I remember about these games, like how long they took, what things happened, how did the finale take place, you know, that sort of thing. And I kind of just want to talk briefly about those on this episode and see how that goes. So without further ado, why don't we start with, first of all, what have I bought recently? That's interesting. Well, I was watching one of Paul's videos recently. I think it was the Planta Nubo video, and I don't know if I'll like that game. It looks too fiddly for my liking, but we'll see. I haven't got it. You know, somebody can teach me one day, but I'm not really running out for it. But I bought Ash's Pheonixborn again. Yes, because I previously purchased this a while ago, and it was an enjoyable game. It had a very cool card system, the artwork was absolutely gorgeous, and there was a good variety in the people that you were playing. The problem was that it was basically a 2-player game, and I never get 2-player games to the table. So this was just basically like a nightmare to, you know, get across. And it had all these expansion packs with more characters, and it just wasn't worth me buying these, frankly. So it just became like, I'll sell it off, but it was a bit of a shame. Somebody on Paul's video then told me about an expansion for this game. But I was like, well, I don't want more expansions. I need to be able to play it. Well, apparently, this was an expansion that I wasn't aware of. It's called Red Rain, or Red Rain, something like that. Yeah, here we go. Ashes Reborn Red Rains. I've got both of these now, the Frostwild and the Corpse of Veros or something. Haven't tried them yet. But this is apparently a way to play it 2-player co-op or solo. Ha ha ha! Solo! Yes! So suddenly I now have the means to play this game as a solo player against the boss. Cool. I like these style of games, and if it's basically the same type of gameplay except against the boss, I'm down. So this is on my wish list to learn at some point before Christmas, just to try and play it, although I'm going to have to relearn the entire game again and the solo mode, although apparently, interestingly, the rulebook there's 2 rulebooks in Red Rains, and one of them is a rulebook if you have already played the game to death before, and one of them is a rulebook if you have not played the game at all and you're starting off as a solo player. That is really cool. I mean, if that works in the way I'm thinking it's going to work, that's a brilliant way to do your rulebooks. No other publisher has done that, and I would love to see that in more games, like a way to say, right, here's the rulebook if you're playing it normally, and here's the rulebook if you're playing it solo, which incorporates all the base rules of the game, you know, that sort of thing. I mean, that could be really cool. But I've no idea if this is going to rekindle my love for it or not. I mean, I liked it. I didn't love it, but I liked it. But I didn't get enough chance to really let it sink in. So I'm hoping that these 2 expansions will do that. Now, they're costly. I mean, this one was like 30 odd quid, and I think the Frostwild one was like 20 something quid. And hang on, I've got it over there. 1 second. All right. This is the box for Frostwild. That's it. I mean, for those of you listening on audio, it is no bigger than the palm of my hand. You know, the palm of my hand is as big as the box is. And this cost 20 something pound. That doesn't seem like a very good price point for that. So this does seem like it's a bit of a premium priced product. But a friend of mine really wants to try this one. So I better get learning soon, because he's really wanting to see if this game's any good. And it's been on his wish list for a while. And when he heard that I was getting it, he perked him right up. So yeah, I'll get it learned. We'll have some games, and at some point we'll talk about it. Probably not until 2024 at this rate, but I'll keep it on the back bench. But yeah. If you've got any thoughts on Ash's Pheonixborn Reborn, particularly the solo expansion, I'm more interested in how it plays solo and co-op rather than how it plays normally, because I doubt I'll play it normally. I think this will be the sole way I play it. Let me know in the comments what I need to know, because any useful tips or any useful feedback would be appreciated. Alright, so yeah, more on that soon. Right, let's talk about games I played, and I think we're going to save the big one until last, okay, the big hitter. So let's just talk about games that I played with the memorable things. So I'm going to go onto my Instagram here for this picture, because this is Hegemony, and yes, Hegemony is a contender for Game of the Year at this point. I mean, it really is. You know, Earth is another game I love. I'll talk about that in a minute, but, you know, Hegemony is so in the top 3 running for top 10 of the year. It is. I can't hide that. This game is just solid for me every time I play it. It is so well designed. It is so clever. It's so thematic, and it just works. Yes, it's difficult to get to the table normally because you need the players and it's going to take a while. But then again, every convention this gets played by multiple people. HandyCon, Gridcon, I'm sure AirCon as well. I don't go to that anymore, but I'm sure it's the same there. Everybody brings out Hegemony. I am guaranteed to get a game of this played every convention I go to. So it's not like I'm strapped for times to play it, and that's not including any times when I could just play it solo with the simple AIs. This game is just brilliant. But the reason I'm bringing this one up is that I had a 4-player game of this with a couple of patrons that I'd never, I've been dying to get games played with for a while, and we had 2 new players. But they'd done a little bit of research, but for the most part they were new. And it did take us a little while. We did overrun a little bit, but with 2 new players, the game was tight. We had pretty tight scoring in this one. Well, for the most part, the middle class player, the guy actually teaching the game was middle class, and didn't go as well for him. But the other 2 classes, the new players, were pretty tight with me. I was playing the state, because, I mean, when you're playing with new players, you pick either the state or middle class. You don't give either one of those 2 to a new player. It just doesn't work. Although it has been so long since I played the capitalist. I really want to play the capitalist in my next game. But the state is still a group I like, because yes, they don't get many actions, but I love the fact that the state has to watch what people do. So you oversee the whole thing. You're going, let's see, I can get points this way, I can get points this way, but hang on a minute. Capitalists is starting to get a little bit up themselves here. I better restrict them back by incorporating this. And now the working class is starting to pull ahead. Let's pull them back a bit. And it's like, you're not necessarily trying to outdo the others on points just by the way you generate points. But, I mean, in the end, look at my point marker there. It's on 127. That's how much I finished the game off. The closest player was working class, and we were neck and neck for ages until a bit of the endgame scoring happened, and then I pulled ahead. But, man, 127 points. I don't think I've had higher than that before. If I have, it's barely a few points. If that, it's definitely a good score for me. But I wasn't actually doing that well on the legitimacy markers. You can see on that picture there, they're only halfway up the board. Normally I get them higher. I struggled to get the cards in the events that helped me with a lot of legitimacy stuff, and the other players weren't helping out on that regard. So a lot of my points came from state benefit stuff. It came from me proposing more bills and policies than usual. I was pretty aggressive on the policies table, doing very well on my political agenda, but I still had a reasonable legitimacy markers. They just never got much higher than that. They got remained halfway and stayed there. But another thing I was doing good, though, is that for a lot of the game, we had free and cheaper healthcare and education. Up to a point. I did have to reel it back at one point. But by that happening, it meant that every time they kept buying stuff off me, I was getting legitimacy increases and victory points. So that was certainly helping to drip feed as well. But I was also trying to curb the working class and the capitalist a little bit at times to stop them raking too many points in. And that's just what I love about the state. But this was an enjoyable game. I mean, I had to play the state in a slightly different way to what I'm used to. But we had some interesting policies. I mean, you know, I kept the tax really high. That helped. I finished with a lot of money, like 400 plus money or something. I'm not sure. I mean, all of those, it must have been. I mean, all those stacks of money there, he was using metal coins, which I don't have. I think those are 100 piles. So I think that was like 400 and something money that I had at the end in the treasury because I kept the tax high and the wages never got to the A's bracket. And I only had 3 public companies open. So I was just raking in the money. Apart from one scare where I almost did get tanked by the IMF. Yes, I hate it when the capitalist sells me phones. But it was just, I had a lot of money. And certainly they considered me a threat. But I was able to stave them off. So yeah, a good fun game. I just love this. It's so good. Such a good game. I can't sing enough praises about it. And I can't wait to see what this New World Order is that they're doing. You know, the new game, the area control game that they're doing. I mean, I don't think it'll be as good. Area control's not normally my thing. But if they can retain the same theme and same interaction and same kind of feel in this new game, then I'm certainly keen to look at it. And I think it may be one of the rare occasions where I actually do look at it from a preview perspective, because I normally don't want to do previews or Kickstarter stuff anymore. But I will cherry pick the occasional once in a blue moon opportunity where I have faith in who I'm talking about here. So as much as I can't, well, I still give opinions when I give previews. That's the way it is. I do not do what other previewers do and basically go, this game is amazing, buy it now, with no opinion. Because if you don't give an opinion, then I don't care. You know, that's kind of the way I go. But yeah, really love this one. Such a good game. Such a good game. All right, let's talk about Trickerion. Trickerion is one of my friend's favorite games. You know, in her perspective, this is her favorite game. And to be fair, I can't exactly dispute that. I mean, this is a fantastic game. This is in my top 100. And, you know, Trickerion is just a solid Mindclash game back when Mindclash were actually making the best games ever, because I loved Anachrony, loved Trickerion, really like Cerebria, didn't like Perseverance that much. Septima is not getting the feedback that I would like to hear, although I have yet to play it. It's still over there, but it's going to be a while before I can get to Septima. What else was there that I wasn't a fan of? Was it just the Perseverance? Oh yeah, and Voidfall. Which Voidfall was a good game, but way too much faff and way too much going on to be a decent enough game to want to play all the time. So this is kind of like when Mindclash were on their peak for me, playing Anachrony and Trickerion. Trickerion is probably, it used to be about my 3rd favourite Mindclash. Now it's actually elevated to 2nd. I think it's overtaken Cerebria at this prompt because I've played this one more than Cerebria. But Trickerion, even without the expansion, I mean, you got to have Dark Alley. You've got to have that in there. That's a must. But Dulgard's Academy, it's a good expansion, but it's a lot of extra rules. So we didn't play with that. But 3 of us who have played the game before, this one is basically like if you played Prestige, the movie, as a board game. And The Prestige is a really underrated movie. I think it's got Christian Bale and Hugh Jackman in it. And it's about rival magicians trying to kind of outdo each other. Sort of like via means of cheating or, you know, sabotage and stuff like that. It's a really good movie. It's very underrated. Many people haven't watched it, and I really do suggest you do. But this one, 3-player game. Using asymmetric powers, in fact, we just passed her actually, I used Electra. I've never used her before because the first time I looked at her power, I thought this is going to be quite janky and a little bit hard to deal with. Basically, in this game, you put tricks on these little markers on the performance cards, and when they get performed, the tricks get performed, and you get income and rewards for that. Electra allows you to basically double up on the markers so that when it's performed, it effectively increases the yield that it awards you. Means you need a lot of trick markers. Well, started off with an engineer and basically grabbed tricks that enabled me to have a lot of trick markers. And it was interesting because it meant I didn't have to perform as many tricks early on as other players did, because my yield was so good that I only needed to perform those tricks, not loads of tricks, if that makes sense. But it was quite interesting, but we finished with stupidly tight scores. I mean, look at on this picture here. You see how close these 3 markers are? Put the blue 1 space back, and that was what we were. We were so damn close with 3 of us, and it won with 1 player who with her winning, and I didn't expect her to win. I thought it was going to be a race between me and the other guy, because the 2 of us were kind of neck and neck up ahead, and she was far behind. But then she caught up in the last couple of rounds, and she pulled an absolute belter. Trickerion's one of those games where something stupidly weird can happen in the last round, and it really does change up how things are going. And mostly it arises from these prophecies, these Dark Alley ones. I once had a game where I took a prophecy on the last round that muted all people's player powers to 1. And when you go to an action space, you spend power, and it allows you to do various things. Well, they cost a certain amount of power, and your people that you have, your employees, have different levels of power. So your magician is 3, your workman is 1, for example. Well, I took a prophecy in the last round when I was already ahead on points, which nerfed everybody to 1 power. In doing so, the others couldn't do enough in order to catch me up, and I won the game that way. That was made for a weird finale. This one, though, oh my god, this takes the cake. Essentially what happened was, and it wasn't even prophecy related. Basically, the 3 of us played a game of chicken, and 2 of us lost, because what was essentially happening was when it came to the performance time to get things done, basically one of the other players has a power that basically said, if you don't perform the one that I want you to perform, I can potentially force you to go perform it. And that's a deterrent for doing other things. So basically he puts tricks out and makes other people perform them rather than him doing it. So he wasn't planning to do any performances that round. Now, I obviously needed my tricks to go because they were not many of them, but they were so high yield that I needed them performed. So I figured, well, I'll go in. But then I thought, well, hang on a minute. She's going to have to perform surely, because he's not going to perform probably. I don't think I need to. And also, because a prophecy came out that meant that we didn't get any money for performances in the last round, it meant that if I didn't spend time getting more money, I wouldn't have been able to pay my employees, and that would have meant lost victory points and tank the game. So that didn't help. Thank you. But the classic thing is that when we both played chicken to get her to perform, she wasn't planning to perform, and she didn't perform. So no performances took place in the final round. That never happens. We have never had that happen. And as a result, the points that she gained from doing other things caught her up. And when we did the endgame part, I think she had more shards than the rest of us or something. And it pipped her. It put her ahead. So I came second by a point. The other guy came third by a point. She won by a point. And I gotta give credit, because that was such a good way to end the game. It was like, I love these. Trickerion is one of those games where even if you're slightly behind, you can sometimes pull something out of the woodwork. Some crazy thing can turn up, and you can change the outcome of the game. And this was one of the classic examples where it happened, and I couldn't help but just go, round of applause. In fact, I even bought her a pint for it, because, I mean, to be fair, I owed her a pint from Friday, but it was like partially thanks for teaching this game that I'm going to talk about later to me, but I also wanted to give her a pint because I just thought, respect. Like, you pulled off a belter to beat me in that game, and I had to give you respect for it. And that, for me, respect is done better in a Thatcher's cider pint. So, yeah, this was just a great fun game as always, but man, for it to end like that. I mean, I was so confident I thought I was going to pull away with just a close win, and then that happened. It's like, okay. We didn't expect this. How's this going to work? And certainly, if she had performed, I think she would have come third, and one of us 2 would have won easily. So it was definitely the right move to do, and it just worked so well. So what a finale to Trickerion. Insane. Right, let me take some ginger. Come on, ginger. Work your magic. Right, very quickly, Earth. I really like Earth. Earth is a good fun game, and I don't have much to say about it. I mean, it's a tableau building game where you're, in fact, I might even look at my Instagram then, because I think this was played on the same day. No, it wasn't. All right, we'll gloss over that. Okay, so with Earth, tableau building game. You build up a tableau of cards that are all different types of flora and like flowers and stuff, and it's got similarities to kind of Ares Expedition, a little bit of similarities to Wingspan, and I love this game. It's just such a good, fun, short engine builder with lovely theme, lovely art and photography and stuff, and it's just a really nice game to play. It can be a bit clunky for your first game if you're a bit new to it with all the abilities, but once you've played it a few times, it becomes smooth as butter, and I just love playing this solo or multiplayer. But I taught my friend Hilmar this game along with a couple of others, and yes, we are still doing this top 10 big boxes thing, okay? We're trying to iron out what we mean by big box, but yes, I really need to get a date in the diary for that. So, yeah, I will try to get a date in the diary before Christmas for us to do this top 10 live, okay? It's going to happen. I may need to have at least 4 liters worth of fluid in order to do the live stream, but I'm going to do it, all right? Throat or no throat. And the idea is that with this game I taught, I played a very rush strategy, and I don't often do that. But basically, I had a bunch of stuff that was cheap. I think the objectives kind of lined up with the stuff I was playing for other things, but they ended up being very cheap, very low VP cards. But it meant I was able to spam out cards stupidly fast, and because I was focusing pretty much entirely on yellow, tree growth and getting more cards was easy. So, with that said, let me show you the score pad if I go to day that was relevant, because what happened was, as a result of doing this rush tactic, let's see, even full, oh, nope, I'm going through posts here, nope, let's stick it to right, that's even full, all right, this is what I want, so there we go. So this was the Earth game, and I had this tableau here, and as you can see, I've got a lot of little trees everywhere, not a lot of cubes. I mean, all of those cubes literally came from playing, where was it? I think it was the Flooded Delta card down here in the bottom corner that gave me 13 cubes. I think that's where pretty much all of these cubes came from. But as you can see, I focused heavily on yellow here. Now, again, all really cheap. Mushrooms in a row and a column so that they all generated their own tree growth, and trees in a row that generated their own tree growth. It was really, really cool. I finished and easily had more cards than other players by quite a bit. This is the score pad. Yeah. 153, 176, 197 from Hilmar, and 200 from me. We had 3 points in it. And that's a low score for Earth. Some of you are probably thinking, why was that such a low score? Well, because I rushed the game. If I was using more expensive cards or going for bigger combos than that, then yes, I would have easily hit like high 200s or low 300s on a good game. I mean, that's a typical score for a winning player. But 200 and only 3 points ahead of somebody else who didn't have that many cards in their grid. But as you can see, they had 15 more points in their cards than I did, because I had a bunch of low VP stuff, including my starting setup cards. So I had to make up ground, and I certainly did. As you can see, my tree growth is a bit higher than his, although not much higher than another player, so my trees weren't worth as much as I thought. But where I excelled was the fact that I managed to get top spot on, I think, all but one of the objective milestone cards, the brown cards. I got top spot because I was just zooming through those and I finished first. So there's where the 63 points from that comes from. But man, he was more consistent with his points across the board, and only 3 points in it. But yeah, because I rushed it, I have never managed to do 200 points as a win that low, because normally I think that's the lowest score I've ever had as a winner. I don't think I've ever won the game in the hundreds bracket. It's normally being very low 200s if I have won. But yeah, 200. I mean, just to get round 200, insane. I mean, I hope that was added up right, but I'm sure some of you is already checking the maths. But that was a close game to finish. It was an unexpected score from Hilmar, because I honestly thought I was going to cream everybody. 24 points here, 47 points here. I did not expect Hilmar to be right up my tail. And this game does good for that. So I love this game. It's another contender for the top of the year, but cool, blimey, that was a memorable way to play, and also a memorable finish. All right, moving on briefly to a couple of others. Wayfarers of the South Tigris. Now, I already had this picture here somewhere on my Instagram. Oh, that was the Trickerion game. So there's a lecturer there. There's some of the performances. I don't know when I took this photo, but yeah. And as you can see, my friend has the insert from, I think it was, I can't remember if it was Broken Token or Etsy. that did this insert, but it's a really nice wooden insert, and she will not buy the collector's box that I've got because this insert won't fit with that. And this insert is really good, so why do you need the collector's box if this insert works just fine? But, you know, I digress. So, let's see. That we'll get on to later, and yes, you know that one's coming. Wayfarers. Yes, Wayfarers of the South Tigris. Again, this is up there with possibly my favourite of the Garfield games. I don't know. I mean, Wayfarers, Architects, and Viscounts keep fending for position as to which one is my favourite of them. But gotta say, it's been a while since I played Architects, and not as long, but still a little while since Viscounts. Wayfarers has had this recent play, and I gotta admit, I do really like Wayfarers. Oh man, I don't know where, in my top 100 when I do it, I don't know where these are going to end up, whether this is going to be my new favourite Garfield game now. And by the time I do my top 100, I'll have played Scholars. Well, I played it once, a demo of it, but Scholars is delivering me to me this week. So I'll get to play Scholars of the South Tigris more, and maybe by the time I do my top 100, that'll be ready to be my favourite. Although, that might be wishful thinking, because that means I've only got about a month to play it a lot before I get to say whether it's in my top 100, because I'm going to start doing that in January. That might be pushing it a bit close, but we'll see. I mean, from the demo, I enjoyed it, but I don't think this is going to be... I don't think Scholars is going to be like a top 3 of my favourite Garfield games. I think it's going to be... I think I'm going to like it, hopefully, but I don't think it's going to be up here with this. But anyway, Wayfarers. Love this one. So it uses dice to do your actions, and you're basically building up a row of cards in front of you. So, you know, these... Hang on, bring back the picture, or let's go to some other ones. And the idea is that, like before, you've got, you know, people that you can hire that give you special abilities and that, but the way the sort of core mechanic works, and I mean, I played a solo and multiplayer as well, is that you're acquiring these cards using coloured workers or the dice actions, and you've got several types of land cards, you've got several types of water cards, you've got space cards, you've got inspiration cards. It's very much all these different cards, a million options. What do you want to go for, and what kind of engines you want to build up? And, you know, it's such a fun game, because while you're doing all this tableau building, you're also trying to move along this what's it called? I forget what it's called, inscription track or papyrus track. I don't know what it is, but you're journal. That's it. Yeah, journal track in order to get bonuses and trigger the end game. But all these cards have got different iconography, different abilities, different bonuses they give you, and you can just create all sorts of really cool sort of strategies to end the game. And it looks very pretty on the table with the usual D'Amico artwork. There is a strategic part to it, like I'm going to aim for these particular things, but there are so many tactical opportunities that arise as well that I just get such a kick out of this game. So much fun. But you can't see my full tableau here, but this is kind of the majority of it, because I focused pretty much entirely on land and space. Didn't do very much in the water, apart from the basics to get across the journal track. But, in fact, I don't even think this is the end of the game. No, it's not. We're only, like, halfway through the game at this point. And you can see how many land cards I've got there. I've already got 6 on top of my board. And I ended up with 8 by the end of the game, because I had the inscription card for it. So, yeah, by the time I finished and triggered the end game, I had 8 of these cards in front of me. I was doing a lot of land-based stuff. So, lots of camels. But I was also hunting down planets. So I grabbed planet tags, I found several of the planets, I managed to get an inscription that gave me double points if I had so many planets. I also had the 8 card inscription card to, inspiration card, sorry, not inscription, inspiration card to double the points if I got 8 land cards. And they were both on my planets. And I think the other one there is giving me points for mountains, vistas, which is good because I was getting a lot of vista cards. So I ended up with something like 60-something points by the end of this. I had a pretty high score compared to everybody else, so it was quite a comfortable win. But this one was kind of highlight, really, because we were mainly just revising the rules for a couple of people. All of us had played it at least once before, and we were just revising it. So we were able to get away reasonably quickly, but this just went at a very good pace. You know, we didn't have much time between turns, and we finished this, including the rules revision, in under 2 hours. That's pretty good going. I mean, this is why, you know, this game has a lot of thinking. It has a lot of moving parts, but to be able to finish a 4-player game of this in under 2 hours just goes to show why this game is one of the reasons why this game is really, really good. Because I like anything that makes me go for a good, thinky, in-depth game, and yet gives me a decent time frame. So yeah, this was a good fun morning game. It was great to bring this one out again. It wasn't my copy, it was someone else's. But yeah, just great fun. You know, trying to do all the, what was I trying to do with these land cards? Oh yeah, I was getting provisions for finding planet cards, and various bonuses were coming every time I did like got tiles. So I had quite a lot of those single green tiles on my board, in order to generate some more provisions and other bits. And then while I was trying to do that, I was raking in a decent amount of money so that I could spend them on planet cards. It was, yeah, just a good fun game. I mean, not much else to say. I enjoyed it. I like it. And then finally, I'm not going to mention too much more, but Deep Rock Galactic, the board game, is still doing well for me. I will do a review of this, and yes, spoiler alert, I like the game. So, I mean, it's not like you're going to get a massive, like, revelation, but I do want to talk about the pros and cons of this game, because there are both. There are pros and cons of this game, but I mean, I just played Deep Rock Galactic several games online last night. I just randomly, when I'm bored, just go on Deep Rock Galactic on the PC, hazard level 5, do a couple of the basic missions, level up my characters and that, chop and change weapons to sort of see what's like. But yeah, I just love just firing up Deep Rock Galactic on the PC. It's just so much fun. And it's good that I can just play with randoms and still have a good fun game, although I can only make the game so challenging without introducing mods, and I'm not a big fan of mods. I prefer to play the game as intended, so it's just on max difficulty all the time, and it still means solo is still really challenging, to the point where sometimes it's impossible, but I usually go with a 4-player game, and I have it like that. Yeah, nice swig of ginger. But this board game is definitely doing well for me. I mean, it's so faithful to the main game that it deserves credit for that. Now, did I play Deep Rock that game? I guess I didn't. I must have played it on... When did I play it then? I must have played it on one of these days. Well, there we go. I think that's one. I don't think I took 2 pictures of Deep Rock. I think I just took the one. So, yeah. I mean, I literally, I kid you not, I said, anybody want to play Deep Rock Galactic? Instantly got 3 spaces filled. In fact, 2 more people wanted to play it after I filled those spaces. So I had to teach this twice on the convention. And I have no problem with that, because this is just a good, fun game. So faithful to the game. And most of the people hadn't played Deep Rock. I think only a couple of people had. The rest of them hadn't. So even they enjoyed it. But it's easy to teach this game. It's a co-op. So you've only got to teach the basic rules. You don't have to teach how enemies move. You can just tell people how it works when they come out. You don't have to teach them what all the abilities of the monsters are. You can tell them that when they activate. So all you've got to do is just teach them how the basic actions work, what our goal is, and what their individual characters do. Now, granted, one of the flaws of this game is that you don't have particularly great reference cards for what your character does, and there is the occasional FAQ moment. I have printed out some good reference aids from Board Game Geek to assist with this, but however, it could still be better. The reference aids on Board Game Geek do not include your character-specific abilities yet. Somebody on Board Game Geek needs to print out a good reference card that not only does the basic actions, as well as enemy movement and stuff, but also introduces for each player specifically what their character abilities are. So there should be one for driller, one for gunner, that kind of thing. I think if you could do a reference aid that does that, that would be fantastic. But yeah, we played 2 scenarios. I played 1 experience, and this one was a veteran one. And one thing I am noticing with this game, though, is that it is a little bit on the easy side, unless you're willing to up the difficulty. Now, you can up the difficulty quite easily. I mean, I've been playing on hazard level 1 and 2 in this game, and I think that maybe I should be playing on hazard level 3, which is the last level before you start introducing other mods to the game. But hazard level 3, I think, should be the minimum that you start to have a really challenging thing. But some of it might just be that this is the first time I've done a veteran map, and the rest have just been, experienced or novice ones to teach the game. I've still got more than half of that book to go through in terms of scenarios, because I've been teaching it a lot with scenarios I've already done before, and it's got a lot more veteran missions. And I even got a mission from Essen. Yeah, they had a promo one. I grabbed one there. Sadly, it got a little bit bent in transit, but it's there. I could always laminate it if I'm desperate. But yeah, it's another mission that I can do, and it's a veteran one, so I might do that solo and see what happens. And to be fair, I've played this mainly multi-handed when I've played this solo, so usually 2 dwarfs at a time. I've yet to play it with the Bosco variant. That's the true solo mode, and I've been meaning to do it, and I just haven't had time. So I'm hoping at some point, I mean, I doubt I'll get time today even, but I hope that soon I'll be able to just sit down and play some Deep Rock Galactic solo and play the Bosco thing. But because I certainly need to from the, yeah, certainly need to before I review it. But yeah, these were just 2 fun games. I mean, we were using our abilities. This mission got a little bit hairy at times, but at the end kind of became a little bit of a cakewalk. Again, I think I mean, this one gives you upgrades for your, actually, no, this one gave us a little bit of a run for money. The one I'm thinking of that was a little bit on the easy side was the other mission we did, which, we had a period where we just didn't have much in the way of swarm increases or, much in the way of swarm increases or enemies around. So it certainly had an effect, but still enjoyable. We got into the theme, and I love these miniatures. I mean, I'm not going to paint them, but they are just cool. It's just so faithful to the main game. I mean, yes, it abstracts a couple of things or changes 1 or 2 aspects that you have to, but the way that these things work and how that happens, it's just done so well. And yes, it's a big money sink, especially with the miniatures. I mean, if you want to get this cheap, wait for it to come out on retail. I don't know when that will be, but when it comes out on retail and does a non-miniature version, consider that if you want a cheap game. But if you're willing to splash out, the miniatures are great. And I splashed out on the miniature version of the expansions on the Kickstarter, which, like I say, I don't back a lot on Kickstarter anymore. But I treated myself and made certain I'd saved up a bit of money to buy the expansions for this, because it's a game that I think is going to be a keeper. Like I say, spoiler alert for the review, but the game is not flawless, and I need to explain more why it's good and what the bad things are. So don't worry, a review will come out, so I can at least give consumer advice. But yeah, still love this one. Right, the big one. Last Swig of Ginger. The game that some of you are probably gagging to hear me talk about my thoughts. Hello, Great Western Trail, New Zealand. Now, you people, some of you know that my history with Great Western Trail is nicht gut. I gave the original decent number of chances, and I hated it. Hated the game. Not as much as some stuff like Concordia and Power Grid or Barrage and stuff like that. I think this was more on the levels of Brass, where I didn't necessarily hate the game. I just didn't like it and didn't get why everybody was fawning over the mouth over it. And I think that was part of the problem as well, because this and Brass was just like everybody wants a piece of this game, and I just thought, why? I don't get it. It's not that fun. It's not punishing. The way you exploit Kansas City in the original just seemed a bit weird and stuff like that. There were just things, and also expectations were not great. I mean, I got rid of those expectations quite quickly, but when this was at the time when they introduced deck building as a side mechanic, this was before it became kind of a normal thing for that to happen. So I went into this expecting a cool deck builder with this other thing on top, and it turned out to be the other thing, and deck building was such a bolt-on, and it didn't feel... I didn't get why it was there. It just sort of didn't make sense, and it still doesn't really make sense why it's in the game. But I said, you know what? On my recent trend where I'm revisiting old games to see if I can enjoy them more now, to a point, there are some games that, like Barrage and Concordia and Power Grid, that I just don't want to touch. I know I hate those games. I know I'm always going to hate those games. They're never going to change. But, I warmed up a bit more to Terraforming Mars. I warmed up a bit more to Dune Imperium. Still overrated as all get out, but still, I warmed up to it a bit. Mainly with the expansions. Although this Uprising thing, I will try and get a copy of Uprising to review it, but man, that feels like such a cash grab. But I also played Brussels 1893 again, with Hilmar Essen to help him teach the game. And I hated it before, and I still hate it now. Boring as hell. But this one, I was willing to give another chance, but not the original. Not the second edition of the original. I wanted to try one of these new spin-offs, because the more that the publishers had time to develop this and the more the designers had time to work on this, I expected the latest iteration to be the better one. And most people have talked meh about Argentina. Like, they recognize it exists and that's about it. So that wasn't exactly a glowing reference. So I watched my friends at one Shake Battle and Roll convention playing the New Zealand one. This is the one with sheep. Sheep are better than cows, full stop. Although I do prefer beef to lamb, but I think sheep as animals are just better than cows. But I watched them play this, and I saw that there was more options for stuff that you could do. There was the river thing, and then there was the track itself. It looked like there was more mitigation for the deck building elements, so you weren't quite as screwed over by the cards. There were ways to kind of fast forward your deck, so you weren't trimming any cards out of your deck per se, apart from rare occasions. You were mainly getting cards that let you cycle quicker through the deck. Okay, not quite as good as being able to trash stuff out of your deck, but you know what? I'll take it as a good compromise. The variety in those cards was good because you had to select 4 out of 10 to appear in the game, and they could be different combinations. It's like, okay, I'm seeing stuff I like here. And I thought that this was probably one of the games that I could play again that I might give more respect. Like, out of all the games I've disliked in the past, this was the one that I had more confidence that I could find something good here, because my taste in games and the heavy games I play in that, I think I've more aligned with stuff like this now. And I thought, like, let's give this one a fair chance. I know exactly what this is going to be like going in. So give it a fair chance. See if now they've, fine-tuned a bunch of the stuff in here. So, what are my thoughts? This is probably going to surprise a few of you, but I liked it. Oh dear. I liked it a fair bit. Oh, hang on, I'm going through my previous ones. Where is it? Come on, find the pictures. Oh, where did I play this one? Where did I play this one? Ah, there we go. Great Western Trail, New Zealand. So, yeah, I enjoyed this, and I think I won. Actually, did I win? Oh no, I lost. I lost by a couple of points. Like, I was literally 2 or 3 points off the winner. And we were doing vastly different things. I mean, I thought I was going to comfortably win. I didn't expect to lose. So it was quite cool that, the things did happen. I went full on shepherd. So I went full on, get the best sheep, sell it at the best price, and, do a few other things on the way with bonus tiles. And, I did really well on that. I mean, I had a lot of points from sheep and cards. But the other guy was doing the river track pretty much. So he was sailing around the top. I sailed, I think, 3 times in the entire game. Like, I did pretty much nothing on the river track because I just thought, well, I'm going to try a weird strategy. I'm just going to focus entirely on shepherds because, let's face it, in the original game, that was kind of the easier way to win in that one. And I thought, let's see if it wins here. It certainly did very well, but I'm glad it didn't win against a different strategy. And we all had some buildings. I think I also did quite well on the builders front. Like, I had I only had 2 buildings on the map, but they were high-rated buildings, so they were scoring me quite a decent amount of points. But I think with the expectations now aligned with what I knew Great Western Trail was, this one just worked better for me. And I think a lot of it is down to the amount of options that there are. Because I can go sailing, I can do building, I can do the sheep. I can also do sheep shearing. So as well as selling the sheep at the market, you can also at times shear the wool of the sheep. And this can be another way to get points and income and things. And you can focus a lot on that. So you've got like 4 particular paths that you can do. And on top of that, you're also like clearing the hazard tiles or sticking them out. You can get wild workers. You get bonuses for having a lot of the same type of workers. So there's a reason to specialize and diversify. And it didn't feel too punishing when you got to the market. Because in Kansas City, you were almost told to exploit that in order to take the negative points in order to do well later. And Nucleum has something like that as well. And I'm not a fan of when games do that. It's counterintuitive. This one, yes, you could suffer -3 victory points. You can suffer a few minus victory points if you're on the very low stuff. But it's very difficult to get the very low stuff. You've got to have a pretty bad hand in order to end up on the lower bits. So I found that wasn't a problem this time around. And I mean, I'm playing red, so you can see in the distance, my red markers are on the top bit. And to be honest, I may have won the game if I'd added up my score right, because I forgot that I had 2 discs on that last space where you can have multiple discs, not just one. So I might have actually won the game, but because we'd already totaled up the scores and I was already in a good mood, the last thing I want to do when I do that is to tell somebody, oh, sorry, I should have scored 10 points there. I win. Because that feels like the most jerk move you can do at the end of a game, to basically burst somebody's bubble by saying, oh, sorry, you didn't win, I win. It's like, nah. If I didn't know the rules for scoring well enough, if I didn't add things up properly, if I made a mistake, that's on me. So I took the second place like a man and just gave him the victory. You know, I barely even mentioned that I'd added it up wrong. So it's like, whatever, take the victory. So, you know, but this was surprisingly fun. The options were plentiful. I felt like there was good tactical things I could do, even though I had to go for a strategy and make that the thing I was doing. The buildings were a bit more interesting in this. The builders didn't feel quite as punishing to do as the last one, although not a fan of the fact that you get taxed on other people's buildings as you go past them, because there's a few choke points on this map where you can build these buildings that tax you for money, and it does seem to be a kind of thing in the game to get those as soon as possible because you don't have to suffer but everybody else does. I don't know, that seemed a little bit but for the most part, really cool. And you know, the bonus tiles were sweet to do. The Kingfisher track, it's a track, but I did nothing on the Kingfisher track. I don't think I touched it at all apart from like 1 or 2 points. So I ignored the Kingfisher track and sailing pretty much entirely, and I think if I'd added all the points right, I would have actually won the game going full shepherd, which is a slight worry because that's the one that I thought did the best in the old game as well. But, you know, the guy either won or came very close with sailing, and he was all sailing. Barely did any shepherd stuff. So it was good to see two conflicting strategies do different things. The theme was fun with the sheep, you know, sheep shearing and stuff like that, you know, that was just more relatable. The artwork is really nice with the sheep, you know, they just look cuter than cows. I'm sorry, sheep are just cute. And yeah, there was just, I felt like I wanted to play it again. Not straight away, but I felt like I'm interested to do that. I mean, I actually looked at the game thinking, do I want to buy this one? It did entertain me, but I don't think it's quite... I'm somewhere between a 7 and 8 from that first point. Maybe an 8, but maybe 7, I don't know. But I don't think it's quite distinction level, but I did enjoy it. And this is from a game I hated before. It's not a flawless game. I say the choke points are a bit of a thing. I'm not convinced that certain strategies work, like maybe heavy builders and heavy shearing. I'm not sure that those strategies would work, but I would like to be proved wrong by trying them in the future. But also, I don't like these objective cards. These objective cards are cool to get you a little bonus, but they're so minute in points. I mean, you can't use the same thing to trigger multiple objectives, so it's hard to do a lot of these. You've got to get them through your deck, you've got to play them in order to have them score. They're negative points if you don't do them, which is an off-put, but they're only 3 points. 3 points is nothing when you're scoring... I mean, we scored over 100. I'm pretty sure we broke 100, us two. So 3 points is not a big deal. And some of these requirements are not the easiest thing to do, but yeah, I don't know. I just feel that they needed to be more points for them to be worthwhile, because I feel like I could play a game never getting any objective cards and I would still probably win or do well. Like, both of us, I think, only had 1, maybe 2 objective cards apiece. And let's see, that's from my perspective, that one. So, were those... yeah, those were my 2 objective cards. And I think he only had 1. So there was 6 points on me and 3 on him. I mean, you know, they just don't seem worth it. You know, I'd like to hear your thoughts on whether the objective cards can be used better. But I don't know, they just seem like an arbitrary thing in the game, or something that's too undervalued in the game. Maybe that's the bigger problem. But yeah, I'm staggered. I'm staggered that I played a game of Great Western Trail and enjoyed it. Now, would I enjoy the other Great Western Trails if I were playing those? That I'm not so sure on. And in fact, yeah, here's a score pad. So yeah, we had a few addition errors, but yes, did I? Oh no, I still lost. No, I still lost. Yeah, what shocked me was that I think he had like 111 points or 101. Oh no, he did something similar, but yeah, he had like 111 points or something like that, and I had only 96. And I thought, how did he get so much further ahead doing sailing when I was doing such a good with shepherds? And then I realized I added my thing up wrong. So you can see there I had something like 28 or 20 something points, and then it went up to 39, because I thought, how did I not get that many more points than them on those like sail markers, the flags? Because surely I was doing lots more than them. And then I noticed the 2 disc clean and realized, oh wait, am I supposed to get points for both of those? Whoops. You know, because I'd forgotten that rule. And so we added those up, and it still made me lose, but only by 4 points, 109 to 113. So a close game, and it was definitely his victory. I mean, I'm glad that was cleared up. But then where did these objective cards come in? objective cards. Oh, he had 4. Okay, so he got 12 from his. I only got 6, but still, I don't know. They just don't seem that worth it, the objective cards. But I don't know. Maybe prove me wrong in a future game, but I'd certainly be interested to know your thoughts on that. But yeah, it's true. I've played a Great Western Trail game, and, I played a Great Western Trail game, and I liked it. That song is so stupid, I hate its guts. But yeah, I can't believe I actually liked it. It's insane, and I bet some of you Great Western Trail fans are flipping your lids at this point for, like, the fact that I'm actually saying this. But yeah, I want to play this game again. But I don't know if I want to play the original Great Western Trail. Maybe if you threw in Races to the North, the expansion, because I hear that fixes some of the problems I have with the base game. But I think the base game probably still has a few problems that I'm not a fan of, and I don't really care about Argentina. This one seems to be the Great Western Trail one that works for me. And I think because it gives you all these different options and a bit more flexibility with what you do, a bit more luck mitigation, even though there is a little bit of luck still. It's not flawless, but this was very good, right? This was a very good game, very, good experience. So, I guess we'll be playing some 4 players of this with my other mate, because this was with my 2 friends. They were more than happy to teach me it, and they were certainly more than happy to hear that I'm willing to play 4-player games with them on this. So, yeah, this is going to be good. Right. I'm going to start ending things there because I've just had the low battery warning on my laptop. So I haven't got long before this thing is going to concat in a few minutes. So I'm going to start wrapping things up there. Thank you so much for tuning in to this podcast. Let me know your thoughts on the games I've mentioned, particularly Great Western Trail and also Ash's Pheonixborn. I want to know your thoughts on the solo for that. Plenty more stuff to come out soon. You'll get Age of Innovation next. I don't think I'm going to do a video for games played, like best and worst of October, because it's a bit late in the month, and frankly the best and worst of October is basically what I've already talked about from Essen that I've reviewed or played at HandyCon, which I've already done the podcast on, so there's not really much else to talk about. So I'll probably do one like best and worst of November, because that will probably be a bit better, and I'll have some different games that I haven't mentioned in there. In fact, I can think of 2 or 3 already, but we'll cross that bridge when we do. So thanks everybody for tuning into this podcast. I'll see you on the next Broken Meeple episode, and remember, as always, it's only a game. Bye for now, everybody, and try and get over the shock that I enjoyed a Great Western Trail game.